And we're back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the only podcast on the internet that knows that once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, and 3 times a lady.
Oh, I like where you went there because we are doctors.
But not doctors.
I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw.
And on this week's episode, we're going to flip it up and start talking about Iran and the ongoing Iranian war first, specifically about the ceasefire that's not a ceasefire and the terms that aren't terms, and figuring out what the hell is going on, because that's why you tune in to two non-war professionals.
Exactly.
Yeah. Following that, we're going to turn to the UK and just see how does the UK deal with this very crazy situation, and is Starmer really fed up with Trump? Finally, we're going to turn to the U.S., where we're going to look at the American attempt at election interference, specifically in Hungary, Melania's case for press conference, and just a guy named Todd Blanche, which I think, if you know who he is, you already know we're going to talk about him.
He's just a young man in love, Chris. That's all he is.
That's all he is. All that and more on Doctors Not Doctors, starting right now. Patrick.
Yes, Chris.
So, every time we get in this show, there's always something new that happens. And last week, because we recorded two pods this week.
That's true. That's true, because we were late off the gun getting the last episode out. So which I thought was great, because we were going to give ourselves a little bit more time, a little bit more like of the, thread to be able to pull together, right? So we could have a more complete story. And then when we finished the episode, we would be sure that nothing would happen for a few days.
Well, at least a few hours, every time we stop recording, something else happens. Now, the last time you tuned in, the name of that one was In-Game or Invasion, because there was only really two options left for Trump. Either you taco out, you run away, or you have an invasion. And the deadline for the invasion, the bombing of civilian targets was, I believe, Tuesday of this week at 1 o'clock in the morning UK time, which I think is 8 o'clock in the evening in the US. So
yes, I think that maths.
Yeah. And so we were all kind of sitting, waiting and seeing what was going to happen. And about an hour before the deadline, about an hour before Trump was going to apparently obliterate the entire civilization of Iran.
Yeah.
An emergency tweet comes out, and here's the tweet, folks. I'm sorry, the truth. Based on conversations with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir of Pakistan, and wherein they requested that I hold off the destructive force being sent tonight to Iran, and subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. The reason for doing so is that we have already met and exceeded all capital M military objectives and are very far along with a definitive agreement concerning the long-term CAPS peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. We received a 10-point plan proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. Almost all of the various points of contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated. Very weird. On behalf of the United States of America as president, and also representing the countries of the Middle East, and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to have this long-term problem closed to resolution. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald John Trump, President, and so on and so forth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now,
I swear to God, man, like that is a man who heard the word whereas one time in his 20s and decided it was such a pretty word that he was going to try to put it into things, right? Regardless of whether or not they have any business being there. So
I think it was somebody else. I think that somebody who, again, thinks very highly of themselves and think they're very, very smart. They wanted to write a flowery, almost legal sounding tweet. But that's what it was. It's a tweet. It's just a tweet. And I mean, it's not like, any news agency, and you know how many are in the pocket of MAGA right now. He could have released it to Fox or Newsmax or one of these others and say, behold, we have just been told by the White House that this is happening. No, it's coming up by Truth Social, which is not. It's like again, you have this situation room, you refuse to use it. You go to Mar-a-Lago instead. So it's first off, it's just an embarrassment. Second, I'm going to point to a very specific line in the tweet about we received a 10-point proposal from Iran and we believe it's on a workable basis. See, what people don't understand, the way that you wrote that doesn't matter. It basically says we've accepted your terms. Now, America had a 15-point plan, which we talked about on the last pod. And the 15-point plan was basically bringing us back to zero, which was, zero for, where we started.
Status quo ante, basically.
Yeah. It's in the first term with the Obama deal was basically more or less the Obama deal, but now he's saying, oh yeah, the Iranians have given me a deal, and I think that's a great deal. Wait, no, that you've already lost. You've already lost because so you were wanting a total and complete surrender from Iran. That's what he was wanting. Did he get that?
Check my notes here, Chris. No, he did not actually.
That's weird. He didn't get that. Okay, so he didn't.
But he did get the whole, like, they're going to open up the Strait of Hormuz, right? Like, without any requirements, just 100%. That's done, right?
Well, let me just check my notes here. Let me check my global map here from the globalist the regime crystal ball. No, that still seems to be. Now, the whole point was that in this 2 weeks, you were supposed to have shipping kind of restart.
Right.
And that hasn't happened. There's two reasons why that hasn't happened. And that's because no one actually stopped bombing.
I think I'm beginning to see a flaw in this particular ceasefire, Chris.
Yeah. There's a very big flaw. But before we get to the reason why everything we're about to say is now moot, the 10-point plan that apparently everybody thinks that was agreed to, but no one really knows because basically it's only Iranians who are talking about the details of the 10-point plan. But this is what they said 2 days ago: a complete cessation to the war in Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen. Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Complete and permanent cessation of the war in Iran with no time limit. So that means that once it's over, you can't restart it.
Right.
Ending all conflicts in the region in their entirety.
Okay. All right. I feel like that's gonna be a point we come back to in just a few minutes, Chris.
Oh yeah. Ending. Sorry, let me check here. Reopening the Strait of Hormuz. That's part of the plan.
Oh, hooray! Oh, just flat out 100% opening it up, and that's it. Just completely free to travel, right?
Oh, we have 5 more points. Establishing a protocol and conditions to ensure freedom and security of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. Oh, it gets better. Full repayment of compensation for reconstruction costs to Iran. Full commitment to lifting sanctions on Iran. Release of Iranian funds and frozen assets held by the United States. Iran fully commits to not seeking possession of any nuclear weapons. Immediate ceasefire takes effect and fronts all immediately upon approval of these above conditions. Now, establishing a protocol and conditions to ensure freedom and security from the navigation of Straits of Hormuz. That's an interesting line. Because
that is a very interesting line, right?
A lot of people have interpreted it in a way that makes sense for them, which is that Iran and the Oman will get get a share of £2 million per ship that goes through the Strait of Hormuz.
I gotta say, so if we go from a situation where we had freedom of the seas, where any ship could go into international waters and ply its trade and all that kind of thing, and if we move away from that, Chris, towards a situation where actually the Strait of Hormuz is the world's biggest toll booth, and Iran gets to get $1 million for every single ship that goes through.
That's right.
And I don't know, man. I kind of feel like that's actually a step back from the American side.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's if this is what the terms were agreed to, and in Trump's own words, he agreed to the plan that was presented to him. This is a disaster. I mean, now here's a question that we should have talked about beforehand, but this is, I think I'll ask it a little bit later. I want to come back to it in a second. But first, I think we need to talk about the collapse of the ceasefire almost
Yeah.
immediately. Now,
Yeah.
yeah,
What, it got 12 hours? Do we get a good 12 hours out of it, Chris?
I don't even think we got 12 hours out of it because our good friend
Lord.
Benjamin Netanyahu kept on bombing Lebanon.
Now that's funny you say that, Chris, because from what I understand, part of that 10-point plan that you just read out involved the complete cessation of all hostilities in the Middle East in their entirety, right? Did I have that correct? Did I have that wording?
More or less.
More or less? Yeah.
The complete cessation of the war on Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen, and complete cessation of all active conflicts in the region in their entirety.
Right. Now, if I'm not entirely mistaken, Lebanon is in the region, Chris. And it would seem that bombing the living shit out of civilian areas in southern Beirut would count as an act of hostility, right? Yeah. So I don't know, man. Like, it seems like that's the kind of thing the Iranians might see as a violation of the ceasefire there.
No, they may have seen that because I don't think Iran stopped bombing. I don't think that Israel stopped bombing. So we basically you had about 30 minutes for people able to go to sleep for 10 seconds and wake up and like, oh, nothing's actually changed.
I mean, my favorite part of this whole experience, right, was like reading news stories about how there's now 4 ships about to leave the Strait of Hormuz. They're moving forward. And I was thinking to myself, oh, that's great, because those sailors have been stuck there for fucking ever, right? Because there's, all these sailors on these ships who are stuck there, not getting paid, not being able to leave, right?
Yeah.
And finally, they're going to be able to go. They're going to be able to like have the ships move out. They can rejoin the world. And then the news came in that Iran is closing the strait again, and all 4 ships had to turn the fuck around.
Yeah, and the ships. Yeah, and the ships that had gone through, I think it was like only 2 that actually made it through. And I think there was something on there about only 10 to 15 ships will be allowed through per day. It's I think the first question is, do you think the ceasefire was real? Like, do you think that people actually thought that the ceasefire was real? Because
that's a really good question. Like, you're right. On the one hand, maybe this was a ceasefire that Donald Trump accepted at the last minute because he didn't want to go through with, committing a war crime on the level of, Stalin, because that would have been really bad and also would have been deeply unpopular in the United States, and also would have been like, my God, there would have been no end of diplomatic blowback from that. You launch a few genocides and you never hear the end of it, basically.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, even you'd have to be deep inside MAGA to find any kind of benefit out of just bombing the shit out of kids over and over again.
Right, exactly. Like, murdering children can only get you so far in this world, it seems. So Donald Trump appears to have, like, maybe that's what happened. Maybe Donald Trump was like, actually, this was a bluff. I was bluffing. They called my bluff. Fuck. What am I going to do? Wait, they've put forward a peace plan that is like semi-reasonable from the standpoint of not killing everybody. Hooray! And then, accept it quick. We'll put out a tweet. No, don't read it at me. I don't need to know all the finer points. It's fine. And then Netanyahu was like, well, absolutely not. I did not sign on to this peace deal. I've not been consulted, and I am in no way done murdering children. So I've got to get back to that now, and maybe that's what happened, and that's how it all collapsed. But maybe Donald Trump just kind of made it up as a means of like a squid that squirts out a bunch of ink in order to get away from a sticky situation, right?
Well, maybe. I mean, I think that my inkling is that it's real. Everybody treated it as real. I think the problem is that I think it's a definition of what real means, because
we used to know the definition of the word real. Oh God.
Well, think about it like this. Okay, so remember who's doing the negotiating. It's not the State Department. It's not anybody trained in this very delicate situation. It's a property manager, the president's son-in-law. I think it's just the 2 of them. It's Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner.
Witkoff and Kushner. Yeah,
they're like the Middle East people of the United States, despite having one of the biggest and best diplomatic corps in the world. Screw you guys. We're going with my buddy Steve, who loves the buildings, and my son-in-law Jared, who I will tolerate, I suppose, but he needs a thing to do. So we're just going to send him off to the Middle East, and he's going to sort it all out, guys. He's very good. Aren't you very good, Jared? Good boy. Pat on the head. And so like all of this stuff is being done through text, and I think that as soon as you got like some thread that you could like try to hang a narrative on, they're like, let's ceasefire, let's just go with that, let's go. It's a ceasefire now.
It's a workable basis. It's a workable basis.
Let's just declare that let's declare that it's happened. And the problem is that America is not the only entity in the Middle East. Surprisingly enough, geographically, I think you'll notice that America is a bit far away from the Middle East.
That's true. And not technically part of the Middle East at all, you might say.
That's not what the tax dollars say. But I think that at this point, because this is what real means, is that maybe for the White House and maybe for Iran, because they both put out like kind of complimentary statements. Although I think there was a missing section with the Lebanon thing. You know, like I don't think the Americans wanted to declare that, okay, well, we've agreed to like basically leave the Middle East, and Iran's like they've agreed to leave the Middle East, and it seems like Israel wasn't consulted in the creation of this plan, which is why Israel's like, hey, listen, we still want to kill Lebanese people, so we're just going to start bombing. We're going to, you see Gaza, that's the plan for all of the Middle East. We're just going to start bombing Lebanon now, southern Lebanon. I'm just going to keep on bombing that until it turns, everything's rubble, and then we're going to be like dropping leaflets and stuff, telling them to go back and forth. This is just me. I'm spitballing. I don't know if that's actually what they're doing, but they are continuing to bomb. And the question now,
they did just kill like 264 people in the latest bombing in areas that Hezbollah does not control, in areas that are mixed, so they're not entirely Shiite anyway. Like, they're basically like Israel just killed a shit ton of people who are almost certainly civilians, and who are not pro Hezbollah in the first place. But you kill enough people, and maybe that'll change. Maybe they'll get the rest of Lebanese society behind Hezbollah by the time they're done. Who knows?
Well, and this is a question now, because let's focus this more on Netanyahu than the entirety of Israel. But Netanyahu, question is, there are two different versions here, and I think at this point we should bring up, now that we've given a few days for the ceasefire to fall apart, that the New York Times reported. I don't know if you heard about this, but the New York Times did reporting on how America got into Iran this particular time, and it goes a little bit something like this.
It's going to make me sad, isn't it?
Yeah. So Benjamin Netanyahu basically says, guys, our time has come. We have to attack Iran right now. He goes to America, and he apparently was let into the Situation Room, where he basically put out this 4-point plan. And the 4-point plan went something like this, like, if we attack now, we decapitate the leadership, and we decapitate all this stuff, they won't be able to figure out how to reform themselves. Whilst doing that, there'll be massive popular uprisings. And then, no joke, like the last bit was regime change.
It's the underpants gnomes. It's the underpants gnomes. Chris, it's the underpants gnomes theory of foreign policy. Step 1, steal underpants. Step 2, question mark. Step 3, profit. Like, they actually put forward a plan that relied upon, and then the people rise up in an unstoppable flood when we tell them to. Like, have you ever seen Les Miserables, Chris?
Yes, I have.
Right? Yeah. Yes. So if you think about like the poor doomed revolutionaries in that show, their whole plan was, it's fine, we're going to start a revolution by like having a bunch of us start shooting, and then the people rise and they'll all come to our aid, and then we'll sweep away the old regime, and la 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 la. And like, obviously that didn't fucking work, because that never fucking works. That's not a thing. Revolutions come, they are not made. If I can quote Marx just a little bit, So it's just absolutely perverse that this level of thinking was what convinced Donald. Although, what other level of thinking was ever going to convince Donald Trump to do anything, right? Just point him at a shiny object and say, "It's all yours, kid."
It's like, you could just do it now. Like, this is so. Yeah. Here's the bigger problem: is that we have Donald Trump, who's being told this in the Situation Room, that basically, and you're right, it was basically, we bombed them, something regime change. And it was a something regime change. And everyone in the room, from JD Vance to Rubio to all of them, are just like, I don't know about this one, boss. I don't know about this one. And like the CIA and the army chief at the time, he would just said, this is farcical. The CIA was like, this is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't understand how on earth this is going to work, but whatever is on the table right now, that's hot garbage.
Yeah.
And Trump's just like, yeah, it sounds like a good idea to me. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And Trump just basically says, let's fucking go, and just does it. And because one of the things was that they said that they wouldn't close the Straits of Hormuz. Because reasons, man. So basically you have go ahead. Finish real quick. It's like basically the reason that we're here is kind of because of Benjamin Netanyahu, according to the New York Times. Yeah. And so we have now living in this, we have two ideas of what's going to happen next, because the United States needs to figure out a way. I'm sorry, not the United States. Donald Trump needs to figure out a way to kind of put a cap on this, because as we talk about us, we laugh about all of this. You and I aren't drivers. But I had to get a taxi back home today, and the diesel price at one of the petrol stations on the way home was almost £2 a liter. It was $1.91 for diesel and $1.51 a liter so £2 a liter is something like £8 a gallon, which is something like $11 a gallon.
Yeah, that's a bit, Chris.
Yeah, that's a bit much. So as all this stuff is going on, we have the longer this goes on, the worse it's going to get. And the question is, now you basically need Netanyahu to stop bombing the Middle East. So my question to you is, people believe that Israel would do what the United States says because America provides their arms, or will Netanyahu follow? Basically, does he want peace in the region?
Oh, well, I can answer that for you really easily. No, he doesn't want peace in the region. If he wanted peace in the region, he would stop killing everyone all the time. But I think the more interesting question is exactly what you're bringing up here, which is, how do we explain the actions of the Israeli state? And in a sense, and I'm going to get a little political scientific here, right?
Nice. That's what we're here for.
Right? Exactly. So there's really sort of like two ways that you can view state actions. On the one hand, there's realism, right?
Yes.
Now, realism argues that states are fundamentally all the same. They are primarily instruments of power. Their desires, insofar as states can be said to have desires, are to maximize that power, to maximize their security, to increase their control wherever they can. And so you should expect the only things that really change what it is that a state does to not be ideology, not be personalities, not be sort of, the whims of those in power, but should be entirely driven by what are the state's interests, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, you might very well say, no, that's nonsense. States are collections of people. They are an intellectual abstract we create to try to personalize, a thing that ultimately is not a person, right? Yeah. So if you're going to talk about what it is that states do, you really want to focus in on, well, who's the one running the state? Who's in charge of it? What do they want? And the actions that they take may or may not line up with the interests of the state as a whole. It depends on who that person is and how they think of themselves and what it is that they want to do, right?
Fair enough.
So if you're a realist, then I don't think you have any possible way of understanding the Trump administration, because the second Donald Trump became president the second time, America's foreign policy radically altered. Yeah. Right. So instead of seeing Ukraine as an ally, Russia as an adversary, if not an enemy, seeing China as a major threat, and therefore doing everything you can to strengthen Ukraine, to weaken Russia, and to create some kind of modus vivendi with China that prevents them from trying to take Taiwan. Instead, what you had is Donald Trump doing the exact opposite of all of those things, and doing things that horrendously weaken American power. So if we're thinking about the state of Israel, I think, again, the realists don't have the best argument for understanding what's happening here.
Okay.
If you're the state of Israel, one of your concerns, obviously, is, can we be a regional hegemon? Because if we can, that's awesome, and we should totally do it.
Yeah.
What would that mean, being a regional hegemon? Well, I mean, obviously, you'd want to have the strongest military in the region. You'd want to demonstrate that your military is stronger than everyone else's. And you would also probably want to make, peace deals with countries around you so that you have a bit more security, you have a bit more ability to focus that military on, the true aggressors, right? And I think up until the Gaza war, you had basically Israel doing precisely that, right? So you had the Abraham Accords under the first Trump administration. You had Israel deepening its ties with Saudi Arabia, deepening its ties with, other countries in the Persian Gulf, because it saw Iran as being the main enemy, right?
Yes.
The big bad guys. However, with the Gaza war, I think what we've seen is that the Israeli state is not really acting in its own interest at this point. Instead, what we're seeing is the person who runs the Israeli state, Benjamin Netanyahu, acting primarily in his interest.
Yes.
And I think what splits Netanyahu's concern, right, away from what's good for the state of Israel is good for me towards screw the state of Israel, I want what's good for me, was the October 7th attack.
Okay.
So here's my thinking. When Hamas attacked on October 7th, this was a massive failure of Israeli security, right?
Yeah.
And not just in the sense that 1,000 Israelis were killed, right? But in the sense that the IDF did not stop it, did not see it coming, was not able to deal with it quickly and effectively.
Despite being warned of it as well.
Despite having been warned repeatedly. Shin Bet had the plans, right?
Yeah.
Now, before anyone starts, getting all tinfoil hat and all that kind of shit, that kind of thing happens a lot. For the record, the Nazi invasion of France going through the Ardennes, the French had the plans. They actually had the plans a few months before it happened. And they were like, well, obviously this is a fake. This is fake. They can't. That's a stupid plan. They can't possibly mean that. Okay, we could ignore that. We know they're not doing that, and that's why we'll focus on Belgium. Here, I think possibly something similar happened. A lot of alarm bells were ringing, but the people at the top decided that those bells were not worth listening to. Maybe they thought that it was all, false information. Who the hell knows? But what absolutely is damn certain is that Netanyahu screwed up bad.
Yeah.
And that meant that the only thing that he could do was to wreak horrible vengeance upon Gazans and kill just an obscene number of people, including and especially women and children.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he had to keep that war going as long as he could, because he is under indictment.
Yeah.
He is very likely, in my opinion, to be convicted should he ever go to trial. But as long as he's prime minister, he cannot go to trial. So he needs a constant emergency, Chris.
There it is.
He needed the war to keep going in Gaza, regardless of the fact that this had horrific effects on U.S. leadership. Joe Biden, in no small part, lost re-election precisely because of the horror and the genocide going on in Gaza.
Yeah.
Once Trump did become president and got Netanyahu to agree to not kill all the people all the time, but just some of the people some of the time, right? Since then, you've still had this basic problem of Netanyahu needs, he needs war. He needs a state of emergency. He needs all this stuff going on because otherwise he might lose power. And so he gets the United States to bomb Iran back in December. He gets the United States to have full-on war with Iran now. And even though the war is going very badly for the United States, the U.S. has suffered a massive strategic defeat.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time that America suffered.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in a second. Right? Yeah.
But so my point here is that when it comes to Netanyahu, he has no incentive to have this war end, and every incentive to make sure it keeps happening.
Yeah. No.
And
So that does make sense. Therefore, it would be very weird for him to, in this case, follow what America wants him to do. Right. That makes him a regular person again who has to deal with the repercussions of his actions. Last question.
Right. Okay.
Last question before we move on to the next section. With all this happening, from the kind of just brief elation of the past, of Tuesday and Wednesday to, the almost immediate collapse down of the ceasefire. I think that is, what Americans should be asking themselves right now is, what have we won? Because technically the ceasefire still exists, even though it doesn't. So what is it that has been gained that wasn't there before? So I think we both know what the answer is. So let me just put it in a different way.
Go on.
Will this be Trump's Suez crisis, or will this be his Bay of Pigs
God, that's a good question. I mean, the argument for this being the American Suez Crisis, and for those of you who are, for those of you who haven't heard, the Suez Crisis in the 1950s, this was the United Kingdom, France, and Israel working together to seize control of the Suez Canal from the new nationalist government of Gamal Abdel Nasser in Egypt. It went very poorly, not tactically, because they were able to seize control of it really easily, right? And Israel was able to seize the Sinai, and everything was going gangbusters. The problem was the United States had not been consulted. The Soviet Union had definitely not been consulted. And both of them were like, no. We are the ones in charge of the world. The UK, France, Israel, you back the fuck off now, or we will destroy your economies. And this was, the moment basically where the British ceased to be a superpower, or rather where everyone realized that Britain had ceased to be a superpower.
Well, they could be told what to do. It's the first time that Britain was told that you want to do a thing, you think you're in control of all these different parts of the world, and oh no, here's your little cousin over there, and here's your other cousin over there in the Soviet Union because of the Victoria, right? Both telling you to sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up until we tell you what to say.
Yeah. And since the United States was very willing to let the British economy implode, it's a whole thing. I'm not getting into it right now, but basically Britain had to reckon with its new place in the world. The argument that this is America's Suez Crisis, I think, comes down to the idea that what Suez really is a moment that shows everyone a fundamental strategic weakness that one of the main actors did not realize they possessed. Right.
Yeah.
In the case of Britain in the 1950s, it was the British economy, that the British need to maintain the strength of the pound meant that it needed to be able to have US dollars, which meant it needed the United States to agree to a loan from the IMF to Britain, and was willing to say no.
Yeah.
And Britain was just not in the position to forego that loan. In this particular case, that strategic weakness is not economics exactly, but it is the simple fact that when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. is not in a position to stop Iran from closing it. Well, we can't force them to open it up, basically, not without paying the kinds of political costs that America is simply not willing to bear. And why should it?
Well, at the end of this week, what have we learned? We've learned that despite being the claims that the Iranian Navy and Air Force and the rest of it is completely obliterated and gone, they were still able to, at least as far as we can tell, shoot down an aircraft and keep the Straits of Hormuz closed for the best part of a month through apparently people in small boats and mines
and drones
and very cheaply made drones. So, they've proven that to fight the great evil, the great Satan America, you don't need to have $1 billion projects. You just need to have a couple $100,000 worth of drones that you can fly, and America has to combat it with lots and lots and lots of money. You've learned that the Straits of Hormuz, which you had left open, are now very easy for you to close because the world isn't going to, sacrifice tens of thousands of people a day to keep it open. And therefore, what you've also learned at the end of this week is potentially that there's going to be a toll, and that the Iranian government will be getting $90 billion a year off this if it actually does work. And it won't be in dollars. It could be in yuan. It could be in Bitcoin. Who the hell knows? And finally, and here's the final part.
Finally, a use case for Bitcoin that isn't child pornography.
It's
Hooray!
Just terrorism.
Exactly.
And finally, here the thing is that at the end of the day, the Iranian regime is still there. The regime has not changed. You may have killed 2 supreme leaders. You may have killed 1.5 supreme leaders. And what reports are being said that the new supreme leader is not in a great shape. But they can just get another one because they still the power structure is still there. You haven't collapsed Iranian society. You haven't created a new republic that isn't based off of the structures of the old republic. So, they've fought America and they've basically won. They're their military is degraded and their military has taken a massive beating. They've, they've been bombed to hell. They've been bombed to hell. But this is the thing. There's remember that scene in the Blues Brothers, and Jake and Elwood are coming home to his flop house in Chicago, right. And then Carrie Fisher pulls up outside of the flop house with a rocket launcher, and she shoots it at Jake and Elwood, and all the bricks come down on top of them, and and it looks like they're dead, and they just kind of stand up with the bricks, and the bricks kind of fall off of them, and the music plays up again. They just go up into the flop house. Yeah, like that is kind of what's happened here. Is like you've thrown everything you had at them, and now you've got nothing to show for it. So I think it's closer to Suez and Bay of Pigs, because we didn't even help the people who were trying to take over the government, who were trying to oust the government. We basically told them to get out into the streets, and when they didn't, you're like, well, I guess you're all going to have to die.
Well, this is what amazes me, right? Is that, like, if the plan hinged on Iranians taking to the streets to overthrow this brutal, vicious, dare I say, wicked regime, right?
Yeah.
That they didn't do it when the Iranians were out in the streets in January.
Yeah.
When the people were actually out there, like, demonstrating, like, showing their resolve and begging Donald Trump to help them.
Yeah.
He did nothing. And when the Iranians killed 30,000, I made absolutely clear, oh yeah, if you in any way look at us sideways, we will murder you. We do not care. We are the Iranian regime. You are Iranians, and therefore you mean nothing to us. Yeah. Right? Like, only after making absolutely clear that there would be no help from the outside does Donald Trump launch a war that is predicated on everyone just going out to get massacred again. And then when they fail to go out to get massacred again, he decides it's time for genocide. Like, it's like, I would say, there's a very famous quote, apparently from Stalin: worse than a crime, it is a mistake. But nah, man, this is just both. This is a crime and a mistake. This is just obscene negligence and recklessness and stupidity. Okay, that's it. I'm ranted out.
Oh, fantastic. I'm glad you ranted out. All right, so we're going to take a little break and come back in a second to talk about how the UK handles this.
All right.
And we'll be right back. And we are back.
Delightful. So I feel refreshed after my little rant. Hopefully everyone else feels like they've gotten a weight off their chest,
Sure,
vicariously.
I hope you're screaming into your whatever you're listening to right now. I was going to say into your speaker, into your car phone. It's obviously
your pillow, into the void, as you like, basically.
Into the void. Yeah. So basically, moving on to the UK again. The UK, the Parliament is in recess. Everybody's out campaigning for the upcoming local elections. But we have been able to talk about a few things, one of which is Starmer starting to get fed up with Trump. Basically, let me put it to you like this. Starmer is paying a political price for Donald Trump's actions, specifically the war in Iran, specifically the price at the pump. So as I said before, the price of petrol is going through the roof. Nearly 2 pounds a gallon for diesel. I'm sorry, 2 pounds a liter for diesel. Nearly £1.50 a liter, or something like between 150, maybe even 160, depending on where you're trying to fill up. And as we've seen over the past year and a half now, or a year and a bit, Starmer has been trying to position himself as kind of the negotiator, the Trump whisperer, the man with the plan when it comes to figuring out the enigma that is Donald Trump. And people thought that it had worked because, he invited Trump to do a state visit and go to Buckingham Palace and be fawned over and whatever. People thought, oh, he's finally cracked the code. I mean, the code isn't really that hard. Gold and money work.
Bribe him.
Yes.
He is open to bribes, people. He has, a sign out front of the lawn saying, please deposit your bribes in the specially labeled box.
Well, it's not a sign. It's more of a destroyed East Wing where he's going to build his palace. But the question is now, like, what do you do as the UK, right? Do you get closer to Europe, or do you try to figure out a way to stay close to America? And it's a very hard political thing to do here in the UK because Brexit obviously is still pretty raw, even though I think that people would now vote to go back into the European Union, given
The
what
polling
had
is
happened.
pretty stark at this point. Like it seems like there is a strong majority for rejoining the European Union in this country at this point, and I'm not surprised.
Right.
It's been 10 years of Brexit, and we all saw what happened.
We were all here. We were all here. We all saw what happened.
But I know. I was there.
We rolled out. But the problem is kind of like, okay, so if you do that, the right-wing papers in this country, which are most of them, are going to spend all of their time. I think I already saw one headline in the Daily Fail of, the cost of rejoining the EU will be £3 billion, and that money should be going to the NHS.
That's fucking cheap. Are you kidding me? We can get away with that? Hell yeah.
no, £3 billion. And so it's already beginning that, because Starmer has been making a few more overtures to Europe. Yeah. Obviously. And yet, like, how do you, should the UK, I guess, keep moving down that line, or should it try to stay in the middle of the road? I mean, like, what are your thoughts here?
Well, number one, nothing in the middle of the road but yellow stripes and dead armadillos, as Jim Hightower once put it. Nice. But I think it's the fundamental problem is that Keir Starmer did not understand who Donald Trump was. Never did. He thought that Donald Trump was a rational actor who put on a front of being, a bit of a psychopath and a bully, but was just doing it as a negotiation tactic, right? Yeah. So that, all of that is, clearly, it's not great, it's not lovely, but, at least if you understand that it's all just a bluff, then you can give him a face saving out, create a nice relationship with him, give him enough of what he wants, things that you don't care too much about. And sure, you take it on the chin a little bit, but then it's sorted, the deal was struck. And what he fundamentally did not understand is that you cannot make a deal with Donald Trump. He does not hold to his deals. He does not honor his bargains. Like, if you give him something in exchange for something else, what will happen is you will give him something, you will not get what he said you would get, and then he will ask for more. Because it's not an exchange among equals. It's not a market-based exchange. It's tribute. Yeah. He wants tribute. So when Keir Starmer basically had Donald Trump over and fawned over him and, had to meet the king and all of that, none of that was purchasing anything from Donald Trump. There was nothing given in exchange for that because we still got the tariffs. We still got tariffed.
And it was still, even though
the United Kingdom is a net exporter to the United States, or a net importer from the United States. We have a negative balance of trade with the United States. So we should be one of the countries that Donald Trump is most happy with, if what he's concerned with is like the sort of mercantilist idea of we need a positive balance of trade. We need to be selling to everybody else and then not buying from other people. And anything else is them taking advantage of us, right? Like under his own theory of trade, the UK should already have been in his good books, and of course we're not.
Yeah, and that's just the problem, is that you can't deal with Donald Trump. I think the problem in future for both Starmer and the rest of the world, but specifically Europe, is, can you trust another American president? I don't care if it's President Pete Buttigieg. I don't care if it's President, Leo the 14th. No American president is going to last forever, which is how democracy works. Right. So it's only a matter of time.
As long as it is a democracy.
As long as it is a democracy, but as long as America remains a democracy, there's always a chance and a high possibility that another Trump is just down the road, because they know that acting a fool is going to be the best way to get these MAGA voters in on your side. So I think that it makes more sense for Starmer to try to make some more overtures to Europe. But I mean, again, it's if if he'll be allowed, because as soon as he does it, if he does it, if he's even the prime minister when it needs to happen, the attack upon him will be so huge
Oh yeah.
by the right wing media here that, I mean, it'll be seen as like this great betrayal of this awesome thing called Brexit that's been going really, really well.
If I were Keir Starmer, I would relish that fight. I would dream about having that fight, because to have that fight, you'd have to have the right wing media in this country, which is big and loud and powerful, place itself firmly on the side of Donald Trump.
Yeah, but I don't think they have an issue with that.
I think the vast majority of British voters would have an issue with that. Like, basically,
the
it would
voters,
be a situation.
Sure.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And if you're Keir Starmer, what you desperately need is to win your voters back. You know, like your support is bleeding off to the Greens, right? Like Zach Polansky is eating your lunch, in the middle of your kitchen because you let him in, right? Yeah. And so basically, like, if he keeps going the way that he has been going, the Labour Party, as we know it, will basically cease to exist, right? It will. We're talking about a potential, existential threat to the party, not in the sense that it would cease to be, but in the sense that it would cease to be one of two major parties that consistently contest for power, right? Yeah. So having a big knockdown, drag out fight on an issue where he would have about 58% of the country behind, right? Yeah. And where his opponents would have to lash themselves to the mast of a crazy, ranting, demented ship. That's Donald Trump, by the way, in case you're paying attention. Right? So, like, that is a fight that almost anybody could win. Right?
Yeah, but here's the problem. Sorry, here's the problem.
No, go on. Yeah.
Labor is not a unified party on Brexit. Labour wasn't a unified party on Brexit during the Brexit times, and it still isn't today, because there's a lot of people in the UK who still think that Brexit was a good idea, even though the polling says people will probably go back in. You still got to convince enough people that it's a good idea to rejoin. And I don't think Labour would have the ability to have the coherent argument, because you would have probably very big voices in the labor movement saying, "Oh no, we're better off outside." Still, even today.
I would love to know who it is in the Labour Party that'd be willing to like go to the mats on that right now.
It would be the people, but it's their constituency, it's their capacity to be reelected. It's the issue that they had in 2016 and 2018 and 2019.
Except that, like the collapse of the red wall over Brexit, that's already happened, right? Yeah. So, like, and so much of the Starmer premiership up until this point has been trying to win those voters back. And in the attempt to do that, what he's actually done is ripped out half of his party and thrown it to the Greens, right? So the idea that they could, by being more pro-Brexit, gain back the pro-Brexit vote, I think it's a chimera. I think it's fundamentally mistaken.
No, they can't get. I don't think they're getting those votes back. I'm talking about who they still have, and those people who they still think that probably have a portion of their vote that's still skeptics of the European experiment, even because it not for any rational reason, just because it's Europe, right? So I mean, it's a difficult game for him, but the problem is because the Greens are now there, and the Greens are more. Are seen as more legitimate now than they've ever been before.
Yep.
Then if I'm a European supporter and I'm on the left, there is absolutely zero reason for me to stick with Labour, even if Labour said I'm going to go back and do it, because you've seen what Labour has been able to do over the past year and a bit.
It may already be too late in that sense. That said, I mean, go big or go home. Something has to change. Something has to change in the Starmer government, because right now, if they're sailing on calm seas over a fucking waterfall, like that doesn't help,
Well, yeah.
Like, so something has to change, something big. The attempt to be, more anti-immigrant than reform has failed massively. The agreement to just don't talk about the Brexits, that clearly hasn't. And when you have such a large majority of the country now that it clearly sees Brexit as having been a mistake, when the economic impacts of it have been so clearly awful, no one's happy with how Britain has done in the last decade, right? So I mean, it's one of those situations basically where you can't just follow public opinion. You have to help make public opinion, and you have to do that by having the argument. And
it's much. I think it's much harder for the Labour Party or a left wing party to do that rather than a right wing party. Just so that you are aware of this out in TV land. The last poll that we could find, which I believe was from last year, had pro Brexit polling at 58% for rejoining if a second referendum was held. So it isn't just some number pulling out of a hat. I'm sorry, that's from this year. And
it's been increasing. Because of course it's increasing, because like the people who defend Brexit at this point, I think mostly are defending it for, emotional reasons, and because it really sucks to admit you got took, right?
It's the MAGA problem. It's the MAGA problem.
Yeah.
If you're that bit of MAGA that isn't a conspiracy theorist or a fascist / racist or both, and you just thought that I need a tough guy, but I also want lower prices, and you're just like, I didn't vote for this, that. You don't want to just walk around. I mean, they're saying it now. People are saying it. I've been took, but it's a bit late. Let's take another short break.
All right.
And before we get to the last section, so we will be right back. And we are back.
And now it's time for us to turn our attention to the United States, by which we mean Hungary.
Now, why on earth would we be talking about Hungary? It's a good question. Thanks for asking it, Chris. The reason that we are talking about Hungary is because it was visited by JD Vance. Now, if JD Vance has been allowed back in Europe, and he's had a bad track record of visiting heads of state in Europe. Famously, he visited Pope Francis, and then he shook his hand, and Pope Francis died almost immediately. Yeah. So,
to be fair, I will just point out, this isn't the only time that the United States has gotten a little bit crosswise with the Holy See. I don't know if you saw this, Chris, but apparently there is reporting that says that the Pentagon met with an archbishop of the Catholic Church and said Pope Leo needs to get on side because America can do what it wants. And apparently started mentioning the Avignon anti-papacy of the 1300s. So I think Stephen Miller got a little drunk and went on Wikipedia and then, told someone in the DOD to start yelling at the Pope, basically. So
the Pentagon summoned the Pope's ambassador to the United States and basically said, we are allowed to do whatever we want. And then they started to threaten the Vatican, letting you know why I refer to these people as death cultists. They're not Christians. they are people who want to bring about the Armageddon so they can be zapped into heaven. If they weren't able to use the phrase Christian, we would just call them insane, crazy people. But they are now in charge of the government. So JD Vance is in Hungary, and Hungary he's in there for a reason, because Hungary has an election coming up, and there's a guy who's running for election named Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban's been the prime minister or president. He's been the president of Hungary. Prime minister of Hungary since time immemorial. And the guy has been there for quite a while.
16 years.
16 years, which is quite a while to be prime minister, but not unusual. But he has basically turned Hungary into a white Christian ethno-nationalist state that has its lips firmly pressed against Vladimir Putin's butt. As it
happens.
He is basically anti-EU while still being in the EU. He is what they call it, a liberal democracy, but we would refer to it better as
it's an autocracy.
Not autocracy. It's the thing we talked about in the second episode, and I've been thinking about it all day, and I completely forgot about the phrase now.
Managed democracy?
It is not managed democracy. The Helldivers aren't going to come from the skies. It is competitive authoritarianism.
Yes, that's the one.
The phrase that we talked about this a long, long time ago, but basically it's where a democracy has all the trappings of a democracy, but in reality, the incumbent has all of these things backing them in their favor, whether it be the media apparatus, whether it be the Constitution. The first thing that these guys tend to do is to go in and they tend to change the rules in their favor. They go in and they tend to change the media apparatus into their favor so that you can't even get on television, seize control
of the courts as well. Make sure that you've got your cronies at the high courts.
Absolutely. Anywhere where someone would need to make a decision upon yourself, kind of like Iran, which had this kind of circular thing where the supreme leader is chosen by this particular council, but the supreme leader chooses who's on the council, and it's kind of like this. So, it's a snake eating its own tail.
To be fair, the papacy works the same way. The Pope appoints the cardinals appoint the Pope. It's a perfect system because they have no military power.
Not anymore. But so JD Vance was there, and he was speaking to supporters of Viktor Orban, and and this is just a very embarrassing part for him. He was like, "Somebody wants to talk to you all," speaking in perfect English in Hungary, which is dumb. I mean, I don't know who's trying to translate for him, but he's just speaking. I mean, imagine a foreign leader who doesn't speak English coming to America and just starts speaking in that language. I didn't see somebody next to him like translating into Hungarian. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But JD Vance is sitting there, and he's like, "Somebody wants to pick up a phone call for you," and he calls him, and the call's immediately declined.
Not taking a call from you, JD Vance. Come on.
And he was obviously trying to get the like Trump on the phone to be like, "It's me. You need to vote for Viktor Orban." Instead, it was the caller cannot be connected.
How do you not have that shit set up and ready to go?
How is it that, like, surely before he goes up on stage, somebody has to be there? Hi, Deb in the White House. Yeah, can you
exactly
just put me on hold so I can just hit the button? And he's like, "Hello, it's me," right? Instead, it was just this embarrassing moment where JD Vance could not get his boss on the phone. After declaring that, "I'm going to try to get the boss on the phone, guys. Look at me. I have his number." Ooh.
That's just outstanding. That is outstanding. They are, oh God, Chris, can you imagine if they were any good at this?
Yeah, no, I think you and I were thinking about what if they're any good at this, but I mean, it is a fascist trait, which is you get the worst possible people in the highest possible positions, and you just watch them disintegrate under the pressure, much like the Secretary of War, much like the former Attorney General, much like the former Secretary of Homeland Security, and now increasingly more like the President of the United States. So the reason that he was there was because Viktor Orban's running for prime minister again to lead for his party to get the most seats in their parliament, which is a beautiful building, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Like it's
a huge, beautiful.
We don't have time to get into it, but it was built after the Hungarian revolts of like 1868, right? Yeah. It was like, this whole thing of like, or 1848, sorry. We're going to get the Hungarians on side. We're going to have the Ausgleich, they'll have their own awesome, massive parliament building. And then the Hungarians are still not pretty happy about it because, I don't know. Hungary doesn't tend to take nicely to being part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So there you go.
And that's the most we're going to talk about that. But why would you need JD Vance to come over? There's two reasons why he comes over. Patrick, let's talk about the first one. Is Viktor Orban winning this election? Because the election is on Sunday. We're recording this on the 10th of April, so today is Friday. The election's on Sunday. And what are his election chances looking like right now?
Well, it depends on who you listen to, Chris, because there are some pollsters in Hungary who have him eking out a bare victory.
Oh, wow.
And then there's other pollsters who have him losing by like 25 fucking points.
Ooh, wow.
So there's a little bit of a spread here. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, how are we to know? Whom are we to believe, right? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in the middle, and it probably does. But I would point this out. After 16 years of rule by the Fidesz party, and this is Viktor Orban's party, where they have seized control of the courts, they've seized control of the media apparatus, where like there is almost no independent media left that is not controlled directly by an ally of Viktor Orban or a member of the Fidesz party. If you're thinking about which side a polling company is more likely to err on, they're way more likely to err on the side of Viktor Orban being popular. So I'm not saying that the polls showing him winning are by necessity wrong, but I am saying that I'm going to put a little bit less stock in them, and I'm going to think that the truth probably lies a little bit closer towards Viktor Orban losing the majority that they have inside the legislature. I don't think the TISA party, which is the opposition party that is currently giving them a run for their money, I don't think TISA is going to get the 2/3 support that's necessary for them to rewrite the Constitution. But I do suspect that they're going to win a pretty strong majority if, and this is a big if, the vote is free and fair.
Yeah. It's a big if for Hungary because that's what competitive authoritarianism is all about. The incumbent doesn't let you play on the same ground that they're playing on. But most recent polling, or we have polling here from between the 7th and 9th of April, 1,004 people having the opposition party to Viktor Orban at 52% and Viktor Orban's party at 39%. That's a very big spread. And if it is, and I don't know if it is a proportional representation system, 52, if he got 52% of the vote, that's enough to get a majority. It depends on how the vote are spread. I don't know if it's first past post or not, but
my understanding is that there is gerrymandering, and my understanding is that it's generally accepted that you would need a 6-point victory over Fidesz to be able to win more seats in them in the legislature.
Wow.
But it really does seem like TISA is going to be able to pull this off. Basically, the guy who is the head of TISA, whose name is Peter Magyar.
Yeah.
So Peter Magyar used to be a member of Fidesz, right? So he's a member of Viktor Orban's party, and was married to a woman who was a high-ranking member of that party, right? Who was, in fact, in Viktor Orban's government.
Yeah.
He splits a few years back after this huge scandal involving basically stealing a bunch of money that was meant for orphans, and the president of Hungary was involved. And, one of the big stories of Fidesz's 16 years in power has been an absolute collapse, not just into authoritarianism, but also into corruption. Hungary is officially the most corrupt country in the European Union.
Oh, you did it.
Oh yeah. So they're doing great. And also their economy is absolutely terrible. And it just things have been quite bad for quite some time. So Peter Magyar, not being a fool, realizes, this ship's going to go down at some point. And when it does, I would like to be the guy who benefits from it. So he splits from the party, and basically joins a small party, TISA, which had, as I understand it, not really been much of a thing, and that he makes it a thing.
Yeah.
And just spends like the last several years basically campaigning around the country, unifying support. There's almost no room left for any party that is not either Fidesz or TISA. But as it happens, Fidesz does not have a majority. And it looks like if there really is a unified opposition to him, then Viktor Orban is basically kind of screwed at this point.
Yeah, it sounds like he's pulled, I believe, a Chester A. Arthur. I'm sorry, a Grover Cleveland. A Grover Cleveland, where Grover Cleveland knew where all the bodies are buried and then changed the system to create, basically to undo the corruption. I think it was Grover Cleveland, but it may have been Chester A. Arthur. I don't know.
No, it's definitely not Arthur. Well, he definitely knew where the bodies were buried because he buried a bunch of them. But he got president because Garfield got assassinated. And so he takes over. See the fantastic series Death by Lightning for further details.
Yeah. So there's the other reason why Vance was in Hungary was because America has a very active plan right now to help promote European fascism. Because we discussed this in an earlier version of the podcast earlier this year, where the U.S. national security strategy came out and basically said that Europe was at risk of, quote, civilizational erasure, and it called for cultivating resistance for, I guess, leftism. So the United States is basically supporting the far right in Europe. They're supporting the AfD. They're supporting Geert Wilders in the Netherlands. They're supporting the Le Pen's party. They're supporting Nigel Farage or whatever version of that exists right now in the UK.
Supporting Melania and Fratelli d'Italia in Italy, which used to be the fascist party, but now it's not a fascist party. It's fine, you guys.
Yeah. And because these people want to create a world that basically looks like what Hungary looks like, which is white, Christian nationalist,
authoritarian,
and
deeply corrupt,
and deeply corrupt. And the fact that the United States has been open about their very big desire to ensure that a certain kind of fascist wins in Europe tells you everything you need to know about what they're trying to do to America as well.
Absolutely.
So that is why Vance is there. That's why the American ambassador in this country goes on television, and he is very easy. He doesn't hold back. He's not neutral.
Yep.
Whether it be about oil or whether it be about the politics in general, there's a plan that the Trump administration has about Europe, and it's that it basically doesn't need to exist anymore in its current form.
Yeah.
So I think we leave it there about Vance and the Hungarian elections and interference, and we'll go on to our last two topics.
All right, let's
real
do
quick. I think we'll start with Todd Blanche. Now, Todd Blanche, for those
Acting
of you,
Attorney General Todd Blanche.
You stepped on my toes, Ben.
I'm so sorry.
Stepped on my toes, Patrick, because I like dancing, Patrick. I'm a big dancer, And but basically, Todd Blanche, as Patrick did say, is the acting Attorney General, was the Deputy Attorney General. And he was put there because Pam Bondi got the stanky boot out of the Trump administration. But I passed Patrick a note earlier this week and basically said that Pam Bondi will not be subject to basically she won't be going to Congress to testify about what she knew about the Epstein files about her time in office. And the reason for this was because Todd Blanche said, oh, well, she's no longer the Attorney General and you subpoenaed the Attorney General. Now, Todd Blanche is apparently a lawyer. But it's kind of like saying, who ate the cookie? Well, I didn't eat the cookie, even though I have crumbs all over my face. You can't see where the cookie is. And yeah, it's my favorite brand of cookie. But until you can produce the cookie that I ate, I'm sorry. There was no cookie eaten.
Right. Look, you're looking for a cookie. That cookie is gone. Therefore, you're not looking for anything, are you? Right.
Oh, yeah. So nothing happened because the cookie was gone.
The miracle of transubstantiation and subrogation, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, no. And the thing is, here, we should point out something real quick. No. Pam Bondi got subpoenaed, not the current Attorney General of the United States got subpoenaed. Pam Bondi, the person, got subpoenaed. That person happened to be the Attorney General of the United States when they subpoenaed her, and they were subpoenaing her to tell about what she knew in her position as Attorney General. But the fact that she's no longer Attorney General in no way means that therefore all of her memories will get transferred over to Inception style into Todd Blanche. And therefore, it's hot garbage. There's no legal rationale for this that I can see. It is just a flat out no.
Oh, it's worse than that. See, because let's take the argument that, okay, you subpoenaed the Attorney General, you didn't subpoena Pam Bondi. And yeah, Pam Bondi was Attorney General when you subpoenaed her, but now she's not, so she can't go. There's still an Attorney General. So, okay, she can't go. Todd, why don't you go? I can't because...
He's an acting Attorney General, Chris. So... Yeah,
so he can't go because he's the General. But if he's the acting Attorney General, that means that he can't exercise the same powers as the Attorney General, right? So he must be separate. He must be doing something different than the Attorney General.
Well,
correct?
The Attorney General, Chris, has to be confirmed by the Senate. Got to be a Senate confirmed person. And Todd Blanche has not been confirmed by the Senate. How could he possibly be the Attorney General if he hasn't been confirmed by the Senate, Chris? No, he's purely the acting Attorney General. This is the level of argumentation that we're dealing with here, right? Because this is... If you believe their case, and you shouldn't, but if you do, then that means that all the president has to do is to fire an Attorney General, not pick a new one.
Yeah.
Just have the acting Attorney General act as the Attorney General, but then there is no Attorney General, and therefore that subpoena can never be fulfilled until Congress just puts out a new subpoena for Pam fucking Bondi, the person. Right? For Portugal, the man. It's just such obvious nonsense that even if you took it seriously, you couldn't take it seriously.
Yeah. It reminds me of Chernobyl, the series on HBO / Sky. And at the end of it, where they asked the guy who was in charge of the room when it happened, and he says, Dyatlov, where were you? I wasn't even in the room when it happened. I was in the toilet. And you're just like, bro, your argument is that I was in the bathroom when it happened. My dog ate my homework. My girlfriend is really hot, but she goes to a different school. I mean,
exactly. Exactly.
These are supposed to be like the top level people in the United States, and it's just like your argument is, you're asked for the title, and she didn't have the title anymore, so get fucked. Let's move on from that because Todd Blanche is an embarrassment and probably will get a lot more people killed.
Yeah.
No, he's not Homeland Security, so maybe not. He was just going to ignore the victims of the Epstein files, which brings us to Melania Trump.
It sure does. Nice segue, Chris.
Thank you very much. Worked on it all week.
Nice.
So, yeah. Melania Trump yesterday. Melania Trump yesterday surprised the world when she walked out into the White House, in front of a podium, and basically for 5 minutes said, listen, I had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't even know Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein didn't even know me. Y'all don't. I met Donald Trump at a party. I was having punch, and he was having.
I don't even know these assholes.
She basically gave a press conference or made a statement to America that nobody knew coming, not even Trump, and it basically was all about Epstein. So as some of the late night hosts were saying, we're like, hey, Trump started a war and killed thousands of people to distract us from Epstein. And literally the moment there's a ceasefire, out walks his wife, kind of like, hey, have you heard about this guy named Jeffrey Epstein? I haven't heard about him, but maybe you should look into him. I'm on back up.
Seriously, I have so many questions about what the hell happened there. How can we possibly explain it, right? So on the one hand, for those who are convinced that the reason we went to war with Iran was to distract from the Epstein files, and that's, I think, not a crazy thing to think with this particular administration, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the war in Iran is going so fucking poorly that now they're like, shit, what can we distract from the war with? I know, the Epstein files. So maybe that was the idea, but if so, oh, good God, it's going so much worse for them than they ever could have imagined.
Yeah.
I kind of think that if that were true, then you wouldn't have all this reporting saying that the president had no idea that, the first lady was going to walk out and give a statement behind the presidential seal, which, what the fuck? That's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Where she's like, why is everyone asking me about the Epstein files? My shirt clearly says I have nothing to do with the Epstein files. It's very strange. So maybe there's some big story about to drop that claims that she's got much deeper connections with Epstein and Maxwell Ghislaine, or Ghislaine Maxwell, than we knew, and she's just trying to get ahead of the story.
Yeah.
And maybe because a lot of the statement was basically saying, me and my lawyers will fight any scurrilous statement, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe she was attempting to get them to not publish said story by, threatening legal action with her speech. Maybe this is like, maybe she just really doesn't like Donald Trump. And she's like, you know what? Fuck this guy. I'm going to bring attention to the Epstein files. Fuck you. And then she flips off the entire room as she walks off stage. I don't know if she did that. I don't know if that's what happened, but it would be very, very funny if it were,
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of theories and rumors floating around online about Melania's relationship with Trump and how she met him and why she met him. That's that's just speculation. None of us know that, but people have noted that a tweet was put underneath one of her messages just yesterday, and basically a person that she knew, according to this tweet, was detained by ICE. And yeah, something happened there. And I think that somebody that she knows has just blown the top off of something. So maybe she's freaking out about that. I don't know anything about it. None of this has been substantiated, but it is very, very weird why she, basically decided to, go to the world and say, I have nothing to do with this person. When apparently on Epstein's desk, there's a picture of Trump, Melania, and Epstein.
Well, yeah, we've seen the pictures of her with Trump, with Ghislaine Maxwell and with Epstein. Like there's so much documentary evidence of them having been at least, seeing each other socially. We have emails between her and Ghislaine, where Ghislaine calls her pet name and Melania signs off love Melania. Like there's just so much evidence. Yeah, they clearly knew each other. They clearly had a relationship of some sort. Nothing that I have seen indicates to me that Melania Trump was aware of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's crimes.
Yeah.
But to claim, as the First Lady of the United States did, that she had no relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell, that's a lie.
That's very big,
easily provable lie.
Yeah, that's obvious. That anyone, like, the Epstein files exist. So that she, if the idea was to stop the story from growing, obviously the opposite effect has happened. So I guess we can leave it there because that's kind of what's happened this week. There's a lot that we could have talked about, but there's one last thing we should talk about, obviously, and it is the ongoing Artemis II mission as they make their way back to Earth.
Yes.
So last week we talked about the launch. Not last week. Earlier this week we talked about the launch of the Artemis II mission, which happened on April 1st, and now it's a 10-day mission, and we are on the 10th day. So any day now they should be coming back to Earth, and I mean it's for people who have done things that a person has done before. They've gone farther than anyone's gone before. They've gone around the moon and far around the moon. And and yes, the flat Earth community is having an absolute fucking disaster right now. I believe one of them counted all of the cuts when the ship when the spaceship was taking off. Like, there's a cut, there's a cut, there's a cut, there's a cut.
Wow.
It's a live broadcast, dickhead. I think, best of luck to them. I believe that they are coming back, are supposed to be coming back very soon. I can't tell right now, but it's just, it is one of those things that I'm really hoping that keeps people inspired over, in these troubled times. Just keep people really inspired, keep exploring and keep learning.
Well, that's the thing. And I know that there are some people who look at NASA and look at the space program and see, nothing but like American jingoism and a waste of taxpayer dollars when there's so many problems we have on this earth.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what I would just like to say to that is, no, man, space exploration, the Artemis II mission, this is about learning about the Earth. There's so much that the moon can tell us because the moon is partially made of Earth, There's so much that space exploration has given to us down here in terms of technological advances, in terms of scientific advances.
Yeah.
Like, this is the amount of money that is spent on things like this is absolutely dwarfed by the benefits that we get from it, And on the one hand, you sell it to the public by saying, aren't these pictures really cool? And by God, the pictures are really cool. And in my opinion, they justify every penny that is spent. But the real benefits are so much more interesting. It's so much deeper than that. And so to see 4 human beings travel farther than any human being has ever traveled before, to see parts of the moon that have never been seen before, right? To gather data that is completely new to us, and to come back and, God willing, they come home safely.
Yeah.
Will be an achievement for our species. And also something that I don't think Donald Trump is going to get any political benefit from. No. Because, like, seriously, does anyone think he's the guy who, like, stumped for NASA to get any money at all?
No.
Nah.
No, definitely not. And as we were talking, they crossed the 39,000 miles from Earth as they're getting closer. Oh, and in kilometers, that is 64,000 kilometers. As we talk, they get ever closer to Earth, and obviously the re-entry and all that is, very scary. And we'll all be, watching and hoping that everything works out. But it's about exploration. It's about, that's how humanity grows. And we will always have problems down here on Earth. We went to the moon in 1969, and I'll tell you right now, that wasn't a great time for America either. So
let's try walking and chewing gum. I feel like we can do it.
I think we can do it too. And on that hopeful note, As always, I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Ramshaw.
And we are doctors,
not doctors.
Good night.